The metallic clatter of the data pad hitting the alloy table sounded like a gunshot. Commander Vance leaned forward, planting both hands on the edge of the terminal, eyes locked on the Varcus High Warlord. The alien brute bled from a shrapnel wound above his primary eyes. Heavy ornate armor cracked and dead. He stared at the surrender document as if the glowing text were venom. Vance didn't blink. The ship's air scrubbers hummed a low, steady drone, a stark contrast to the ragged breathing of the defeated warlord. "We offered you a way to fight," Vance said, his voice stripped of any diplomatic warmth. "You chose a way to die." The Varcus hegemony had gravely misread the Sol Alliance. A culture that measured worth by the size of orbital bombardment craters could not comprehend restraint. It had begun 6 months ago, a minor border dispute, a technical misunderstanding over shipping lanes. The hegemony declared immediate purge. Humanity responded with an envoy, unarmed, carrying a data drive containing the compendium of managed warfare. Strict limits on civilian casualties, safeguards for infrastructure, a logical path to resolve the dispute without glassing planets. The Varcus warlords saw weakness. They did not just reject the treaty, they drew ceremonial blades, executed the messengers on a live galaxy-wide broadcast, and launched a full-scale blitzkrieg into the Vidian sector. The Iron Tide fleet was terrifying. 3 colony worlds fell in the first month. Varcus commanders broadcasted their victories, boasting of burning skies and shattered human defense grids. They expected desperate resistance. They expected titanic clashes. Instead, they got a ghost story. The Alliance's primary defense fleet did not fight. They retreated. Synchronized, tactical, flawless. Human ships vanished into nebula-choked dead zones, leaving empty space in their wake. To the Varcus, raised on rigid dogma and martial honor, retreat was ultimate disgrace. They pushed their massive dreadnoughts to maximum burn, tearing across the sector in hot pursuit of the cowards. They had already lost. The most dangerous thing in the galaxy is a peaceful species forced to efficiency. Blinded by ego and thrill of the chase, the hegemony overextended its supply lines, pouring its military might into deep black, leaving industrial cores and breadbasket moons undefended. They thought conquest was linear: march forward, plant a flag, claim the map. Vance had stood on this bridge weeks ago, watching red fleet icons stretch thin across the holographic map. His pulse hammered steadily. The trap was set. The bait taken. Far behind the front lines, stealth drives hummed in the darkness. The Alliance Phantom divisions slipped from hidden warp gates. Quiet, cold, and lethal. They weren't there for grand battles. They were there to cut the throat of the Varcus war machine. No fireworks, no glory, just the sudden, terrifying silence of a collapsing empire. Phantom divisions moved like ghosts through unprotected sectors, severing the veins of the Varcus machine. Hypercom relays sliced apart, fleets isolated. Planetary power grids died, plunging cities into freezing night. Synthetic food plants on breadbasket moons cooled into useless sludge. Varcus commanders realized too late they were stranded. Deep space armadas starving, screaming into static for supplies that would never come. Then, the skies over occupied colonies rained fire, not bombs but cargo pods. Caches of heavy Alliance weapons, encrypted comms, and shield generators landed in the hands of the oppressed. Overnight, insurgencies ignited. The hegemony military, built to crush enemies, was forced to fire on its own rebelling subjects. The empire bled from 1,000 internal cuts. And that brought them here: unconditional surrender. Vance stared down at the High Warlord. Massive armored hands trembled as the alien pressed a biometric seal to the data pad. Copper and burnt circuitry scented the bridge. It was done. "You thought war was just a map-painting exercise," Vance said, voice low, tight with quiet rage. "A primitive obsession with planting flags and counting bodies. You threw away millions because you didn't understand linear conquest versus total strategic attrition." The warlord didn't answer. He stared at the metallic floor. His martial honor lay in ruins, crushed by an enemy that fought with mathematics, logistics, and supply chain strangulation. Not swords and ego. But the silence was not celebration. It was a terrifying responsibility. Within 48 hours, the sky above the hegemony's capital darkened. Not with warships, but with thousands of bulky Alliance restoration barges. They descended slowly, deploying terraform drones, medical teams, and infrastructure engineers. No occupation troops marched the streets. The Alliance was rolling out a managed sovereignty program. They were transforming the Varcus from a predatory war economy into a functional galactic trade partner. Victory was just the beginning, the heavy, suffocating ethical burden of the victor. Dismantle an empire, inherit its broken pieces, rebuild it better. Weeks later, on a rain-slicked colony world, a disgraced Varcus strategos stood in wet earth. No armor, clan markings stripped. He watched Alliance engineers wrestle with plasma welders, repairing a civilian water treatment plant his forces had destroyed. Sweat glistened on their brows. They cursed, adjusted grips, and bled for a world they did not own. Finally, the strategos stepped forward, lowering his head in a gesture his ancestors would have called treason. His voice was gravelly, broken by the weight of a collapsed culture. He didn't ask for weapons. He didn't ask for honor back. He asked for a welding torch. He asked for help to rebuild his world from the ground up. Please follow my channel for more videos. One click from you can change my life.